Okay, so here we are in early 2026, and the worlds of Ripple and XRP are absolutely buzzing. We're seeing some massive regulatory shifts over in Europe, some really cool new tech integrations, and of course, some pretty eye-opening price predictions. Let's break down everything you need to know.
So, what's really going on here? Is this all just hype, or are we looking at a genuine breakthrough? We're going to tackle this by looking at three key areas. First, a huge regulatory win for Ripple in Europe. Second, how the market is actually reacting to all this. And finally, what some AI models are forecasting for the future. Let's kick things off with that big news from Europe.
All right, first up, let's talk about the biggest development, and honestly, it's a massive one. Ripple is making some serious regulatory headway in one of the most important financial hubs on the planet.
So, get this. Ripple has just snagged preliminary approval for what's called an electronic money institution, or EMI license, right in Luxembourg. And look, this is a huge deal. Luxembourg isn't just any country. It's basically the nerve center for European finance. This move is a total cornerstone of Ripple's entire EU expansion strategy.
And you gotta understand, this isn't just some random one-off thing. This approval in Luxembourg adds to an already impressive list of over 75 global licenses. This is all part of a very deliberate strategy that's positioning Ripple as one of the most buttoned-up, regulated firms in the entire crypto space.
So, what does this license actually let them do? Well, for starters, it basically gives Ripple a green light to offer regulated payment services across the entire European Union. Think about that. Second, it gives them the kind of legal clarity that big institutional investors absolutely need before they'll jump in. Third, with Europe's new MiCA framework, which is this huge new rulebook for crypto, it lets Ripple build services with stablecoins and other digital assets. And finally, it just doubles down on Ripple's core mission, right? They're all about building bridges with traditional finance, not trying to tear the whole system down.
Okay, so that's the regulatory stuff, super important. But how does a piece of paper from Luxembourg actually affect the price, the tech, the stuff we all watch? Let's take a look.
Right. This is the million-dollar question, right? When you get big news like this, does it actually move the needle? Let's see what the data is telling us. Well, in the short term, the answer seems to be a pretty clear yes. We've seen XRP trading consistently above that $2.15 mark. That shows some real positive momentum and suggests that buyers are stepping in with a lot more confidence thanks to these developments.
But here's the crucial part. Even with that good momentum, XRP is running up against a key technical resistance level right around $2.35. You could almost think of it like a price ceiling. Historically, this is a point where sellers tend to show up and push the price back down. If XRP can punch through that ceiling, it could signal a much bigger upward move. But until then, it's kind of just treading water, consolidating its position.
And hey, it's not just us regular folks getting excited. We're seeing a huge appetite from institutions. In 2026 alone, more than $1 billion in new money has poured into XRP exchange-traded funds, ETFs. That's a massive signal that the big money, the serious institutional players, are really starting to pay attention.
But let's look beyond just the price for a second, because the tech itself is getting some really cool upgrades. One of the most fascinating things happening is this planned integration between Cardano, Bitcoin, and XRP. The whole idea is to use Cardano's Midnight protocol, which is all about privacy, to let people do private DeFi stuff, like anonymous lending or trading, across all three of these different blockchains. This is a huge step towards what everyone in crypto calls interoperability. It's kind of the holy grail, right? Getting all these separate crypto ecosystems to actually talk to each other and work together.
All right, so we've got a clearer regulatory picture, and an active market. What could the future actually hold? For that, let's have a little fun and see what some advanced AI models are predicting. So a recent analysis from a DeepSeek AI model gives us two very different potential paths for the end of 2026. In the bullish case, right, the optimistic one, if all that institutional money keeps pouring in and the regulations get even clearer, the model sees XRP possibly hitting somewhere between $4.50 and $6. But on the flip side, the bearish scenario, if market sentiment turns sour, it could pull back to find support around that $1 mark. Now, it's super important to say this, and I mean it. These are just AI predictions. They are not financial advice. They are definitely not guarantees. The best way to look at them is as tools for understanding a range of what could happen, not as a crystal ball telling you what will happen. Okay, let's zoom out. We've covered a lot of ground. Let's pull all these threads together and look at the big picture for Ripple and XRP right now. So here's the bottom line. Regulation. Ripple is cementing its legal standing in Europe, which is huge. The market, there are definitely positive signs, but it's got that key technical hurdle to clear. The technology, it's expanding, with new collaborations pushing everyone towards working together better. And finally, the big institutions, the serious money is clearly flowing in, and that's a really good sign. And all of this brings us to one big final question. As Ripple keeps systematically checking off these regulatory boxes and the big money keeps flowing in, the path forward looks clearer than it has in years. So the real question is, with all this momentum, what's left to stop it? What are the next major hurdles on the horizon? And that, my friends, is what we'll all be watching.